Marvel Duel just dropped a massive update. So much has changed and there's a lot of new stuff that I really want to get into at some point. But I did want to provide you with a look at a deck that is breaking a lot of people's spirits, and that's because of how broken one of the cards is that was changed, and that's Hawkeye. Let's take a look. Hawkeye is an Avengers character, and he's neutral, so he can go in any kind of deck, and he synergizes really well with other characters that have critical hit. So the way that he functions now, he's a 6 cost with 16 power, and after a friendly character with critical hit makes an attack, this card gains 50% more power. The reason this card is so nutty is because it is based in a percentage, not a flat amount, which most cards don't tend to do. So if you manage to 4-star Hawkeye, if you have 4 copies of him, and for the time being, if you do, you can get a lot of value out of it, he is gaining 200% more power whenever somebody with critical hit makes a swing that's on your side of the board. And actually that's created some really nutty results where the numbers are so huge the game can't even process them correctly. So here's a deck that you can use to make a lot of use out of Hawkeye's newfound power. So naturally you want to put a lot of different critically hitting units in your deck to maximize him. And actually Spider-Man has a lot of units that fit into that vein. So we're going to take some pieces of this new version of Spider-Man, since he received some upgrades in the most recent patch, and combine it with a few other things that just tend to be good in general. So I'm going to get rid of my face and I'll explain my choice. So I'm going to get rid of my face and I'll explain my choices. The big inclusions here are definitely Wasp, Vision, Abomination if you have a lot of copies of him, and then of course Hawkeye. Wasp has been changed, but she benefits greatly from having big boards and big shops that have a lot of attacking units. Vision is fantastic because of his removal of stun to adjacent units, and that can combine really well with Abomination, who stuns everything whenever the battle begins. If you have more than one copy of Abomination, you can certainly run it. I don't. I'm just not really interested in crafting them right now, so that's the reason that I'm not doing that. Spider-Man is the second most crucial piece of this deck, and you'll notice that there's a lot of units here that have critical hit. Spider-Woman can actually be very devastating if you can build her up. Dr. Octopus can be good too. If you have more than 2 copies of him, you can do that, but he works well with 2. Sandman is really good here just because he's a great defender, and he actually sets up for a lot of situations that will stun your opponents, and that really allows Doc Ock to go crazy, and Spider-Woman also gets opportunities to clean up here as well. We've got Doppelganger Miles because he's got critical hit, so does Symbiote Spider-Man. We've got Miles Morales there. You could run 4 copies of him if you have them. I would certainly encourage you to do so because he buffs up the units that generate in the battle that fit into that Spider-Man vein. Great Responsibility is a fantastic card. It gives tons and tons of extra armor to a Spider-Man character. It's going to be really, really devastating on Doc Ock in situations, and Spider-Woman. And finally, Goblin Glider is great for a support unit to get that AoE stun. On Iron Man, we don't really run a lot here. Tony Stark and Iron Patriot can give you some decent value. Extremis Armor also comes with crit, and then Back to Back is just a fantastic card on its own, as well as Silver Centurion Blade, which can allow you to pierce through your opponent's armor. Finally, we have Hela, and you could really run something else other than Hela here. I just like access to the weapons. Destroyer can be helpful early on. You're not really fishing for Hela or Luffy or Malekith towards the end of the battle, but Ebony Blade can be useful here. So can the Blood Axe, and Frost Giant can be useful early on. So you could put something else here if you want to, but the most important pieces are definitely Spider-Man and the remainder of your neutral cards. So let's take a look at how this deck works. So this start is not amazing. Claw has actually been changed to where his buff actually comes before he takes action, and it's only on other support characters. So Mask here as well as Claw isn't that bad. So if Claw goes first, he actually gets some pretty decent value. So I'm going to choose to do this. Frost Giant's also not a bad start, but because you have the Claw, it's just got that nice synergy. If he goes first, he's going to generate that extra oomph there. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to matter just because there's more power on this board than I think we're... well, actually, no, we should be able to get a wash, which is totally fine with me. Yep, that's what we're going to end up with, which is a wash. Which is just fine because you'll notice he was down from his usage of Ghost there, which works out fine for us. So you want to try to get you're going to go ahead and take this upgrade to shop 3 in my mind. If you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments. But since we have the ability here to boost Claw, we're going to go ahead and do it. The unfortunate thing here is because we don't really have anything to buff with this Gwen Stacy. And Asp, who is a new card, who is not going to get any benefits from having extra Guardian characters because we don't currently have any. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to purchase the Gwen Stacy. I'm not crazy about it because we don't get the buff, but Claw, if acting first, should give us some decent value. We're going to go ahead and pick up the Asp. We're going to push to shop 3. Madam Mask will give us a little bit of health there. So we may end up losing this one. It just depends. And here you'll see Spider-Woman has the ability to swing early on. Claw actually gets off his boost, which is great. We really wanted him to. So we should have enough value here to clean up. So we're actually in decent shape, even though we don't have a lot towards that critical hit engine that we're pushing for. But one thing that you want to keep in mind is that even if you don't get to the portion of the deck where you're pulling and relying on Hawkeye, this deck can be formidable on its own for a multitude of reasons. I am going to take the Starburst for Asp, and then we drew into Sandman, which is great. So Sandman, basically, he has guard. He's a 12 armor, 2 power unit, and he will give stun to a random opponent whenever he gets hit, which is great. So Outrider has been changed to where he now gives a buff to other attack characters instead of searching for a 3-cost unit like he did before. So in this situation, we're actually just going to try and get some decent value out of Ross, and actually we will probably be able to do it if Claw gets his action off in time. So this is kind of a weird supporty style board because eventually we are going to be pushing more for attack characters, but this will at least let us get through and survive a little bit longer. Here, whenever we're able to get to shop 4, we'll start fishing for symbiote miles and those other units that can kind of scale and have that critical hit that will even be valuable to us at the end of the game. So Ulysses does get his momentum off, and you'll notice that Sandman gets his stun. Now, the fact that Spider-Woman is going to absorb this unit here and then swing for big crits. Now, the fact that he got stunned is super helpful, and then we're actually able to clean this up. So even though the start is weird, and I'm doing this commentary live as I play this game, we're not in too bad of shape here. So we're actually number 1, but we're going to be going up against another player here. So a lot of the hero skills have changed, so you definitely want to take a look at those as you're going about this. And unfortunately, even though these bonuses are better, we're not really going to benefit from them in this situation. So I'm going to go with Web Warriors for the free refresh. I think it is the most worthwhile. So we drew into a Spider-Woman. Now, on her own, she's not fantastic. And in my mind, it may even be more beneficial to keep most of the support units out there. We're gonna pass on her for the time being. We're gonna push to shop 4, which will give us a little bit more health, and we're gonna cycle through. We actually ended up with Spider-Man 2099. He says whenever a friendly Spider-Verse character is attacked, it gets stunned to a random opponent. Now, we don't have a lot of them right now, but because of our situation with Ulysses, I'm actually gonna ditch Madam Mask, and I'm gonna pick him up. We've only got 1 copy of him, and then we actually drew into Tony Stark, who can actually give us tons and tons of value and will actually benefit from Claw. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and do this, and then I'm gonna pick up Korg, and I'm gonna lock for phasing in. Because eventually it's going to become a time where Claw is not going to be pulling his weight, and we're going to need to get rid of him. So just looking at what our opponent has now, we might be okay. It's going to depend on how these stuns go and how much value this Silk gets. But we might be okay. And especially if we get some good value out of Sandman here. Because Ross should be protected. Now the Kamala is kind of scary, but if we can keep her stunned and we can start clearing out some of these other units, we might be okay, because we've still got pretty decent value on this board, and we just got another hit out of the Ulysses, which is great, so we should be just fine, even though that Kamala was scaling up. He's going to copy the Silk, but Silk has nothing to generate armor from, so other than the other Silk itself. So we are just fine. So doing pretty good. And I think that, you know, eventually we're going to have to make this transition. I don't think this style of board is going to be enough to win on its own. But so we are going to have to make that transition. I'm going to go ahead and pick up phasing in anticipation of that. We're going to stay on shop 4 for a little bit. We have a few choices here. It may be time to let Asp go. And actually, we may just want to go ahead and do phasing in on the Asp itself because Korg is just better. So I'm actually going to do it. And that's actually not bad because Crossbones on his own has a lot of oomph behind him. So I am gonna... The decisions are getting trickier now. We do want Doppelganger Miles because he gets a lot of value. May take Dick Rider in another situation, but not in this one. Really picking up another Korg. We're gonna grab the other Korg and then we're gonna float 3. I love how I said this is gonna be a Hawkeye and a Spider-Man style build, and we're not really working towards it in a lot of capacities. Okay, so we got 2 Electricize, which we don't really have tons of attackers, so we can't get a ton of value out of it. Alright, so Ulysses gets his trigger, which boosts up a lot of those other units. Ross still barely hanging on. But we just have a beefier board than him in general. And luckily we had Sandman there with the guard, which kind of keeps them away from Crossbones, because while Crossbones has that extra layer of power, he does offer up Hydra soldiers in certain situations when he's swung on. So it's just something you have to keep in mind. He does have a lot of raw stats, which make him really decent, and in this situation actually getting a lot of benefits from it. So Zemo's going to get rid of Ulysses, and then we're just going to end up getting another Hydra soldier. So that's another player gone, so we are at least secured 4th place, I believe, which is pretty good. So right now we're going to focus on, you know, the idea is we're going to try. Okay, so we got a lot of decisions here, and now we're going to kind of pivot away from this idea of this supporty style build, and we're going to get into something that's going to be a little more crit based. So we're just going to take Cap Shield. So we're pulling into a lot of things that are going to end up being really useful. Ross has outlived his usefulness, and Ulysses has also done the same thing. So more than likely we're going to end up swapping through. I'm going to go ahead and push to shop 5. Then we're going to take the free refresh and see what we get out of it. Doc Ock is actually pretty good. And in this situation, it may be the most beneficial for us to ditch, pick him up, put that down. We're going to lock that shop. I don't know if we're going to get both those items down. Nope, didn't have enough time. That's unfortunate, but we should be fine here. We'll see how the order of operations goes. I really need to switch. Having Ock go first means he's not going to get that benefit of swinging on stunned units and getting that bonus power that comes with him. But as you can see, just based on this stat spread, we should be fine. We actually had a really good early game board to make this pivot, which is what we're doing. And here you'll notice from where Crossbones was swung on, he gets 2 Hydra soldiers, but we should have plenty of power to deal with that in a meaningful way. So we're in good shape here, not really sweating. So this right here will guarantee us at least 3rd, which is great. So again, we're still looking for ways to make that pivot. Picking up Vision is good. Picking up an A-bomb would be great as well. We don't have a support unit, so Goblin Guider is kind of out of the question. And again, we're only on shop 5, but we don't want to push ahead too early and potentially make some mistakes. So we're just going to kind of forge ahead here. We're in good shape so far. And now, as you can see here, we are guaranteed at least 3rd place, which is great. So we actually do come across an A-bomb. And in this situation, I'm thinking Crossbones is probably going to be the one to go. And we're going to actually pick up the A-bomb. I think that is what I want to do. Then we're going to take our free refresh. We're not going to place until we figure out exactly what it is we're doing. I kind of want to pick up an urgent shrink just in case we run into a bad situation. So we'll scoop up the Falcon and we'll throw him down on Doc Ock. for that extra value there. And then we're actually going to pick up another vision. Ooh, we're going to lock this for Symbiote Spider-Man. So he's got to go. He's got to come down. Got to play this. Got to play this. Swap them. Okay, board's locked. So as you'll notice, the timer really gets down. If you don't have a lot of experience with this game, you're going to have to make some split-second decisions. Part of the learning curve comes with just being able to play really, really efficiently. So we got the big stun off, which is great. And now Doc Ock, unfortunately, he didn't swing on a stunned opponent there, just based on luck of the draw. But we should be just fine here. Even though he's got methods of dealing out stun too, we should have more oomph on our board in this situation as long as things don't go too poorly in terms of targeting. And I think we should be just fine. So we're going to clean up Kamala, which is fantastic because out of everything on that board, she was definitely the most threatening. Carol goes bye-bye, and it's got an extra copy there of Miguel, which is Spider-Man 2099, but he's not going to be able to get this work done on his own. So we're in fantastic shape here, and we're going to clean this up, which is just absolutely awesome. We're trucking, so now we're guaranteed at least second. We're fighting for first place here, and we are definitely capable of doing it, even though we are not even to the point where Hawkeye has become a factor in this game, and that's actually fine. There's a couple things we could do here. We could start focusing on Red Hulk, or we could start focusing on Symbiote Spider-Man. I am going to pick up the Symbiote Spider-Man because he's got a lot of value. Okay, so now we've got 4-star Doppelganger Miles, which is great. And we're actually going to pick up a Hawkeye. So I'm going to make the bold move, and we're actually going to ditch... we're going to ditch Korg. And the reason we're going to ditch Korg is simply because... And we're actually going to take the shop upgrade. And that's what we're going to go with just because we're tight on time. But we're going to ditch Korg because if we get a lot of these critical hit swings from Hawkeye, and it's going to... I don't know how it's going to go. With these stuns, hopefully we're in decent shape. Actually, we're going to lose out on one crit there, but we're going to pick up another one right here. And even though Hawkeye is just 1 star, he's going to gain a decent amount of power from this. And all the stuns we have, we just lost out on another critical hit, which is unfortunate. This is going to be kind of close, but I think this should come out in our favor. This should come out in our favor. Yeah, we're in good shape. So that actually right there, that dealt the killing blow. So even though Hawkeye only came in at the end, I think that was a pretty solid demonstration of what this deck is capable of doing, because that is a first place finish for you right there. So that's the finishing board. You could definitely push further, and there will be games where you need to do it. But in this instance, we didn't need to do it. So that's a demonstration of what Hawkeye and this, what people are calling Stunverse shell can really do. Thanks for taking the time to check out this deck guide. So much has changed in Marvel Duel, so I'm hoping to try and cover more of it as days go on and hopefully pump out some more videos for you guys. But I did want to let you know that I do like to stream this game on Twitch, so if you haven't already, you should go follow me on Twitch. That is Stout_Helm, so that you will know when I go live. I love you guys. Wear your mask, stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.